Hello friends, welcome to Shankar IAS Academy Daily Newspaper Analysis. Today's date is 21/3/2024. Behind me are the list of articles that we are about to discuss today. Without much delay, let's get started. Look at this article. The Health Ministry asked Punjab government for the details about Charan Kaur, who is the mother of the late singer Sidhu Moosewala, because she had a baby at 58 years with IVF treatment. It became an issue because, as per Assisted Reproductive Technology Regulation Act 2021, the age limit prescribed for a woman undergoing ART services is between 21 to 50 years. So with this background, let us learn about IVF from prelims perspective. So what is IVF? IVF stands for in vitro fertilisation. It is a medical technique used to help people who have a difficulty in getting pregnant naturally. The term in vitro means in class because fertilisation process happens outside the body, usually in a small dish or a test tube. You got it right? Now, how does IVF work? First step is stimulation of the ovaries. Doctors use medication to encourage the woman's ovaries to produce more multiple eggs. Normally, a woman releases one egg per month, but IVF requires several eggs to increase the chance of successful fertilization. Once the eggs are ready, a minor surgical procedure is done to retrieve them from the woman's ovaries. Then the retrieved eggs are placed in a dish with sperm cell. If the sperm fertilizes the egg, they produce embryos. This is called fertilization. Then the embryo are kept in the lab for few days to ensure they are growing properly. Next step will be transferring one or more healthy embryos into woman's uterus, hoping they will be implanted in the uterine wall and continue to develop into a pregnancy. Kindly note that the success of IVF depends on various factors, including the age of the woman, the reason for infertility, and the lifestyle habits. Generally, younger women have higher success rates in IVF. With this, we will learn one more most important concept, that is mitochondrial replacement therapy. For those who don't know, mitochondria is a very tiny structure inside almost every cell in your body. They are unique because they have their own DNA, which is separate from the DNA found in its cell's nucleus. Sometimes, mitochondria don't work correctly because of the mutations in their DNA. When mitochondria fail to produce enough energy, it can lead to mitochondrial diseases. Since you only get your mitochondria from your mother, mitochondrial diseases are passed down maternally only. Although there is no cure for mitochondrial diseases, treatments can help to manage the symptoms. This is where the mitochondrial donational treatment comes into picture. This is also known as mitochondrial replacement therapy, MRT. It involves three people, the biological parents and a female donor with a healthy mitochondria. Now let us see the steps one by one. First is fertilization. The biological father's sperm is used to fertilize two eggs, one from the biological mother with a defective mitochondria and one from the donor with a healthy mitochondria. Second is nuclear transfer. Before these fertilized eggs starts to divide, the nucleus which contains the genetic information from both the parents is removed from the mother's fertilized egg. The nucleus from the donor's fertilized egg, which should carry the donor's traits, is discarded, and the nucleus from parent's fertilized egg is inserted in its place. And the third step is implantation. The resulting egg, now with the parent's genetic material but with donor's healthy mitochondria, is implanted into mother's uterus. The baby born from this procedure will have the genetic information from its parents but will carry a mitochondria from the donor. This way, the baby will be free from the mother's mitochondrial diseases. This technique is remarkable because it offers a way to break the cycle of mitochondrial diseases, giving families affected by these conditions the hope of having healthy children. That's all about this discussion. With this, let's move to the next. Look at this article. Recently, the House impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden has hit a crossroad, lacking the political appetite from within the Republican ranks to go forward with an actual impeachment process, but facing political pressure to deliver after months of work. The Republican chairman of the House Oversight Committee, James Comer, has signaled an interest in another direction. In this backdrop, let us learn about the impeachment procedure in USA and India. First, we shall see about the impeachment process in USA. Impeachment is a process to remove a president from the office in the USA. It involves investigating whether the president has committed treason, bribery, or high crimes and misdemeanors. Under the US Constitution, the House of Representatives, that is the lower house, has the sole power of impeachment, while the Senate, that is the upper house, has the sole power to try all the impeachments. Now let's see how the actual process takes place. C. The House of Representatives starts the process with an inquiry. If they find enough evidences, they vote on the articles of impeachment. The Senate then holds a trial to decide if the president should be removed from the office. During this process, the Chief Justice of US Supreme Court has a duty of presiding over the impeachment trials. In addition to this, the President has defense lawyers and the Senate serves as a jury. It requires a 2/3 majority vote of the senators present to convict and remove the president. It is to be noted that, till date, no US president has ever been removed as a direct result of impeachment. Now we shall see about the impeachment of president in India. The only condition for the initiation of impeachment of Indian president is the violation of constitution. Note that Indian constitution contains no definition of violation of constitution. The procedure is given in Article 61. See, Lok Sabha will initiate the impeachment charges. However, Rajya Sabha too can initiate the impeachment charges against president, and in that case, it will pass the resolution and send to Lok Sabha, which will investigate and pass it if it finds those charges valid. In simple terms, the House initiating the process by levelling the charges against the president. These charges has to be signed by at least 1/4 of the total members of the House. Then, the president is given 14 days notice before the proceedings begin and has the right to appear and be represented during the investigation. If a resolution is passed by the 2/3 majority of the total members of both the houses respectively, the president is removed from the office. An impeachment is a semi-judicial process in parliament. Nominated members of either houses of the parliament can participate in the impeachment proceedings, even though they cannot vote in the presidential election. Members of the state legislative assemblies and the union territories of Delhi and Puducherry who can vote in the presidential election do not participate in impeachment process. To date, no president has ever been impeached. The comparison of impeachment procedure in India and US is given in this table. You can pause this video and go through it. That's all about this article. With this, let's move on to our next discussion. Look at this article. The Competition Commission of India rejected complaints from Indian app companies against Google's policy of charging a fee for in-app payments on its Play Store, ranging from 11% to 26%. These companies argued that Google's policies were anti-competitive. However, CCI decided not to grant interim relief, stating that the complaints did not provide a strong enough preliminary case to justify such action at this stage. The investigation will continue, but CCI's decision means Google can continue its fee policy for now. With this background, let us learn about Competition Commission of India in brief. Firstly, we have to know why such commission is important. Imagine you are at a marketplace where several vendors are selling the same type of products like fruits. If there is only one vendor, they can set high prices because you have no other options. But if there are many vendors, they will try to offer better prices or quality to attract you to buy from them instead of others. This is the essence of competition. So, to regulate this, we have a separate law known as Competition Act. It was enacted in 2002. Earlier, there was an act known as Monopolies and Restrictive Trade Practices Act 1969, shortly known as MRTP Act. But it was repealed and replaced by a Competition Act 2002 based on the recommendations of Raghavan Committee. This Competition Act prohibits anti-competitive agreements, abuse of dominant position by the enterprise, and regulates acquisition and acquiring of control which cause or likely to cause adverse effect on the competition within India. So to enforce this, central government has established Competition Commission of India in 2003 under this act. It consists of chairman and 6 members appointed by central government. This CCI aims to enforce the Competition Act and promote fair competition in India. Recently, there was a new amendment to this act known as Competition Amendment Act 2023. Let us learn those amendments one by one. First one is, any transaction exceeding a value of rupees 2000 crore now require the approval of Competition Commission of India, irrespective of the traditional criteria based on assets and turnover. This aims to capture significant economic activities that could impact competition. Secondly, the terms offence and punishable with fine or replaced with contravention and liable to a penalty, signaling a shift towards civil penalties for violation in competition laws. Thirdly, entities or individuals not directly engaged in similar business can now be considered part of anti-competitive agreements, expanding the reach of what constitutes a collusion. Fourthly, introduction of a section 59A. This allows for a compounding of offences that are not subject to a mandatory imprisonment, suggesting that certain violation can be settled without proceeding to a more severe penalties. Fifthly, the time frame for CCI to approve the combination is reduced from 210 days to 150 days, facilitating quicker business transactions. Sixthly, Penalties for antitrust violation will now consider global turnover of a company rather than just a turnover of all products and services, potentially increasing the penalty amounts for global entities. Finally, it introduced leniency plus model. This model encourages companies to disclose information about other cartels, offering them a reduction in penalties for their cooperation, promoting a self-policing environment within industries. So, these are some of the amendments to the Act. That's all about this discussion. Let's move to our next topic. Look at this article. The International Monetary Fund (IMF) has announced a preliminary agreement to release 1.1 billion from a 3 billion bailout fund to Pakistan following the negotiations in Islamabad. This agreement marks the final tranche of a bailout approved by IMF in July to prevent Pakistan from defaulting on its debt obligations. In this backdrop, let us quickly go through the lending instruments of IMF to low-income and developing countries one by one. Unlike development banks like World Bank or Asian Development Bank, the IMF does not lend for specific projects. Instead, the IMF provides financial support to the countries that are facing crisis, mainly balance of payment problem. The financial support is provided to create breathing room as crisis-affected countries implement policies that restore economic stability and growth. It also provides precautionary financing to prevent crisis. Moving forward, let us see various lending instruments of IMF. The first one is Standby Agreement (SBA). The Standby Agreement (SBA) provides short-term financial assistance to the countries facing balance of payment problem. Historically, it has been the IMF lending instrument most used by the advanced and the emerging market countries. When a country receives fund via Standby Agreement (SBA), then the country must take measures to address the problem that led to the country to seek funding in the first place. The SBA is provided in tranches, and before each tranche is provided, the IMF reviews the country's policies. The current bailout package for Pakistan is provided under SBA facility only. The second one is Standby Credit Facility (SCF). The Standby Credit Facility provides financial assistance to low-income countries with short-term balance of payment needs. The SCF is one of the facilities under the Poverty Reduction and Growth Trust (PRGT). Here, note that both SBA and SCF are provided to avoid present, prospective and potential balance of payment crisis. When balance of payment crisis extends for a considerable period, then the IMF provides support through Extended Fund Facility and Extended Credit Facility. Both these facilities provide financial assistance to the countries facing serious medium-term balance of payment problems because of structural weakness that require time to address. To help the countries implement medium-term structural reforms, these facilities offer longer program engagement and a longer repayment period. The advanced and emerging countries are offered EFF and low-income countries are offered ECF. In 2019, Pakistan used the EFF to get financial support from IMF. For urgent balance of payment needs, the IMF has the Rapid Financing Instrument (RFI) and the Rapid Credit Facility (RCF). Both are designed to provide financial help to the countries that are experiencing a sudden and unexpected balance of payment needs. Here, RFI, that is Rapid Financing Instrument, is mainly used by the advanced and the emerging countries, and RCF is used by low-income countries. The next one is Short-Term Liquidity Line (SLL). The SLL is provided for IMF members with very strong policy framework and fundamentals who face potential moderate and short-term liquidity needs. These countries with strong policy framework fall into balance of payment shocks due to external shocks. The SLL aimed to minimize the risk of shock developing into deeper crisis and spreading to other countries. The next one is Flexible Credit Line (FCL). The FCL is provided to the countries with very strong policy framework and track records in economic performances. Financial support received under this facility is used to prevent crisis from happening. Then the Precautionary Liquidity Line (PLL) is designed to meet the liquidity needs of a member countries with a sound economic fundamentals but with some remaining vulnerabilities that preclude them from using the Flexible Credit Line (FCL). So basically, countries with good economic fundamentals but not good enough to receive the funding via FCL. Finally, there is a Resilience and Sustainability Facility (RSF). The Resilience and Sustainability Facility provides affordable long-term financing to the countries undertaking reforms to reduce risk to the prospective balance of payment stability, including those related to climate change and pandemic preparedness. These are the various lending instruments of IMF. That's all about the analysis. Let's move on to the next. Look at this news from Indian Express explained part. It talks about inclusion of convenience. See, this article is a counterpoint editorial written in a contrast to the editorial article published few days back. In this article, the author has praised the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting guidelines to make cinema halls accessible for the person with hearing and visual impairments. But the author of this article has criticized this celebration, arguing that these small concessions only benefit a small percentage of mainstream disabled citizens. And the case is even more worse when a political dissenter is disabled and socially and economically backward. This is the crux of the article given here. In this backdrop, let's learn the relevant facts from this article using our mains answer writing discussion. This question can be asked in GS Paper 2 and Paper 3 under these syllabus. You can go through it. Let me read out the questions for you. Discuss the significance of disability rights and what are their shortcomings. How can government ensure the effective implementation of disability right legislation? Illustrate your answer with relevant examples and initiatives. Here, you can split the body of the answer into two parts. First, you can write various perspectives and viewpoints regarding the disability rights and their shortcomings, since the keyword is discuss is given. Then, you can write in brief about how the shortcomings can be addressed by the government. Add relevant examples and initiative wherever possible. This is how we are going to address this particular question. Let's move on to the introduction part. Here, you can write like, according to the Person with Disabilities Act 1995, a person with disability means a person suffering from more or less 40% of any disability as certified by a medical authority. This includes disabilities, impairments like blindness, low vision, leprosy cured, hearing impairments, locomotor disability, mental retardation, and mental illness. According to the census 2001, there are 2.19 crores persons with disabilities in India, who constitute 2.13% of the total population. The following are the rights enjoyed by the persons with disability. This way, you can give a link between introduction and body part of the answer. In the first part, you have to write about the disability rights and their shortcomings. See, the general legal provisions relating to the disabilities lies in the Constitution, educational laws, health laws, family laws, succession laws, labor laws, judicial procedures, income tax laws, and various other laws, as mentioned here. Let us see only the necessary part that are relevant to the question one by one. Firstly, know that the Constitution of India applies uniformly to every legal citizen of India, whether they are healthy or disabled in any way. This means that a preamble, directive principles of state policy, and fundamental rights as mentioned in the Constitution works in a similar way to any citizen of India irrespective of their disability. The Constitution mentions person with disability explicitly as well. For example, Article 41 enjoins that the state shall, within the limits of its economic capacity and development, make effective provision for securing the right to work, to education, and to public assistance in case of unemployment, old age, sickness, and disablement. But the shortcoming part is that, despite having equal right, people with disabilities face social discrimination and are frequently considered outcast, resulting in neglect and marginalization. Secondly, the passage of the Person with Disabilities Act 1995. It marked a significant milestone by reserving 3% of government jobs for the person with disability, enhancing their visibility and participation. The PWD Act focused on right rather than the charity, and it highlighted discrimination based on disability. Even this act has its own shortcomings. For example, while the act emphasized non-discrimination and barrier-free access, many public space, transport system and buildings remain inaccessible to the people with disabilities, which remains a hindrance to their full participation in society even today. Effectively implementing their quota and representation of the people with disabilities in decision-making roles also remains low. Thirdly, India is a signatory to the Declaration on the Full Participation and Equality of People with Disabilities in the Asia-Pacific region and to the BIWACO Millennium Framework for Action towards Inclusive, Barrier-Free and a Right-Based Society. Therefore, the Act has to align with the international standards, but there are shortcomings in this aspect too, because regular monitoring and evaluation, which are essential for tracking the progress, identifying challenges and making necessary adjustment to the policies and the programs, is still remain under operational. Apart from this, National Handicapped and Finance Development Corporation has been providing loans on concessional terms for undertaking self-employed ventures by the person with disabilities through state channelizing agency. Finally, Panchayat Raj institutions at village level, intermediary level and district level have been entrusted with the welfare of persons with disabilities, but all these face challenges related to inadequate funding. You can write these points in the first half of the answer. Moving to the second part of the answer, here you can write like this. Some of the steps that can be taken by the government to ensure effective implementation of disability right legislation includes: firstly, providing training and capacity building programs for government officials, law enforcement agencies, healthcare professionals, educators, employers and other stakeholders on disability rights. This can address the shortcomings in the implementation part. Secondly, implementing measures to improve accessibility in public spaces, transportation, buildings and information and communication technology. This will ensure that people with disabilities can fully participate in the society. You can highlight the initiative of Ministry of Information and Broadcasting guidelines to make cinema halls accessible for a person with hearing and visual impairments as an example here. Establishing mechanism for monitoring compliance with disability rights legislation and enforcing penalties for violation, which includes creating a dedicated government agency or a task force responsible for overseeing implementation and addressing complaints of discrimination or non-compliance. For example, for the purpose of providing speedy trial, the state government shall, with the concurrence of Chief Justice of the High Court, by the notification, specify for each district a court of session to be a special court to try the offences under Rights of Person with Disabilities Act 2016. Finally, giving more representation in the Parliament for the person with disabilities for the development, implementation and evaluation of policies and programs affecting them. For example, the Rights of Person with Disabilities Act 2016 mandates at least one seat to be reserved for a person with disability in Lok Sabha, that is the lower house of the Parliament, and one seat in Raj Sabha, that is the upper house in the Parliament. These numbers has to be increased. You can write these points in the second part of the answer. Finally, in the conclusion part, you can write like: disability rights are paramount significance in ensuring inclusivity, dignity and equal opportunity for all the members of the society. Despite progress in legislation and initiatives, shortcomings persist. There should be affirmative policies like research and manpower development, providing social security and grievance redressal to ensure inclusive growth for all, which resonates the true sense of Indian ethos of Vasudhaiva Kudumbakam. That's all about this answer. With this, we have come to the end of our today's newspaper analysis. Let's now move on to discuss today's practice questions. Look at this question. In the context of hereditary disease, consider the following statements. Passing on the mitochondrial disease from parent to child can be prevented by mitochondrial replacement therapy either before or after in vitro fertilization of egg. Statement 2. A child inherits mitochondrial disease entirely from mother and not from father. Which of the statements given above are correct? 1 only, 2 only, both 1 and 2, neither 1 nor 2. The correct answer is option C, both 1 and 2. Look at the second question. Leniency plus model, sometimes seen in news, is related to which of the following? Option A, environmental protection policies. Option B, competition law enforcement. Option C, international trade agreements. Option D, data privacy regulations. The correct answer is option B, competition law enforcement. Look at the third question. Consider the following statement about the lending instruments of IMF. Standby arrangements and standby credit facility are provided to avoid present, prospective or potential balance of payment crisis. Statement 2. Extended fund facility and extended credit facility are provided when the balance of payment crisis extends for a significant period of time. Statement 3. India has received a package from IMF via both SBA and EFF. How many statements given above are correct? Only 1, only 2, all the 3, none of the above. And the correct answer is option C, all the 3. Behind me is the today's mains practice question. Interested candidates can write it in the comment section below. If you like this video, please do share and subscribe. Thank you.